Hey everybody, welcome to the CharlieB Podcast. I'm your host, CharlieB. Do you ever feel like you have so much going on and you just need to breathe? Being a wife and mother can be so overwhelming, and sometimes you just need a minute. Take that minute with me, CharlieB. In this space, we'll talk about marriage, motherhood, and just being a woman. How do we manage to keep it together in the midst of everything that's going on? We're women, and that's just what we do. So listen, this is that pull up to the house and sit in your car for a minute moment. We all need those. You didn't have to, but I'm so glad you decided to spend that moment with me on the CharlieB Podcast. Let's jump right in. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the CharlieB Podcast. My name is Charlene, better known as CharlieB, and I am so glad that you took out the time to join me. Yes, I have another special guest. This lady's name is Miss Paula Anderson, and I am so excited about this conversation that I'm not even going to waste a moment. I'm going to ask her to go ahead and introduce herself. Take it away, Miss Paula.
Well, my name is Paula Anderson, and I am an author, speaker, coach, and I'm a grief strategist. I wrote a book that I guess we're going to talk about today that talks a little bit about walking through your grief, and my coaching is largely around that. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I coach, I do group coaching and individual coaching. I have a grief intensive, which is 4 weeks of coaching for people who are dealing with extreme, with grief, loss of a close loved one, a child, a spouse, just dealing with their losses.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We met at Brittany Smith's soiree. She was celebrating her 100th episode. And when I heard you speaking, I was so focused in on you, like, okay, I got to remember what she has on. So after this, I'm going to attack her and ask her to be a guest on my show.
And you did just that. You did just that.
I couldn't waste a moment because I was like, I got to get her before somebody else does. So let me get over there now. And I almost ran you down. Yes.
I was fangirling you because you were talking about doing this podcast, and I was like, ooh, that's scary. I can't even imagine it. You were talking about how you started. So I was excited to be asked to be a part of your program.
That gives me great encouragement, and I thank you so much for that, and I thank the Lord for it. You have amazed me in so many ways. Let me say that this series is called Why My Child. And the reason that I thought it was so important to bring you on for this series is because of the book that you wrote, Walk Into Your New, transitioning from mourning to joy. And I've spoken to mothers who have lost their children. And what better person to have on than somebody who wrote the book about it? Yes. So tell me first, what inspired you to write your book?
Well, I've always wanted to write a book, but what inspired this book was the death of my husband of 33 years. My husband had been ill for probably about 5 years with prostate cancer. Prior to that, he'd had some other health issues. But when I started to write, I thought I was going to write a different book. I went to a workshop. I was going to write a book about mothers and daughters, and, at least that's what I thought. And I was deep in my grief situation. I was probably about 6 months after the death of my husband that I decided I was going to write this book. And, of course, it was still sort of pandemic time. We were still kind of stuck at home. And I went to the workshop, and I started to write. And once I started to write, I was writing about my husband, writing about just all the things that were happening, that was happening in my life that I was not prepared, not expecting. I won't say not prepared, because as we walk through it, I find God's there with you, kind of walking with you. But certainly not expected, certainly not, that wasn't the book that I thought I was going to write. And I started to look at grief differently. Of course, I've had other losses in my life, but this was by far, I would say my husband was the closest,
Right.
My partner, my life partner, and just the things that people say and the things that you think and how you go through it is what I started to write about. The hard places, the lonely places, all the things.
Ooh.
And that's kind of where the book came from. That's where it came from.
I fell in love with this book.
Oh.
It's interesting to me because you wrote the book because you lost your husband. But the book is not all around the loss of your husband. You are speaking to anybody that's lost anybody. So how did it go from you talking about the loss of your husband to giving people advice on what to do if somebody dies?
Well, I think,
because it's so unselfish. I'm sorry.
I
have a bad habit. I cut people off. I'm going to work on that though. Because my mind is everywhere. You went from grief to counseling people on what to do if somebody, how to prepare your mind for death, what to do after death, even having dinner parties to talk about death while while y'all still alive, y'all need to have some dinners and talk about death. I'm like, this woman.
Because what I realized when my husband died, like I said, my husband had cancer. So while we had some, inkling that there might, this might not come out the way we wanted it to. So we had some time to think about death and dying. But not a whole lot of talk about death and dying.
Right.
And I've had family members that have died in this same period.
Right.
I had a niece that was murdered. I had a nephew that died of cancer. And just looking at how, as a family, we've had to deal with death and dying. And what do you do when someone dies? How do you handle it? What do you do with it? The big question was, do you even, as a person of faith, how do you deal with that? You were praying for God to heal. And that's not what happened.
Right.
That, accepting that God can heal on both sides of the grave, if that's a thing. But what really hit me was, if I believe that God is sovereign, then does he make a mistake?
Wow.
Did he miss being sovereign and perfect in my situation? No. He's God.
Right.
And, later in the book, I talk about, my husband had some health issues earlier in life. And part of when I was preparing and writing and doing my journaling for the book, one of the things that God reminded me of was that my husband had been very ill when he was in his 40s, late 40s, 49.
Are you talking about
my husband had a heart attack?
Okay.
Had a heart attack at the age of 49.
Yeah.
Heart function was like below 4%. They were talking to us about heart transplants and all of that. So the Lord reminded me about that time, that he gave more time. When I would ask the question, Lord, why now? Why not more time? Why not more time? That was the thing that kept coming back to me. But I did give more time.
Yeah.
Life would have been very different for myself, for my children, had my husband died at 49.
Yeah.
My husband was 63 years old when he died. So that's more time. All of our children were grown.
Oh.
More time.
Beautiful.
So
listen, when I read that part in the book, I was so overwhelmed with gratitude with you.
Yeah.
Because it reminded me, it took me automatically to Hezekiah in the Bible.
Yes.
Because Hezekiah, when he turned his face to the wall and asked God gave him 15 more years, I believe. It was 15 more years.
Yes.
And he gave your husband 14 more years. I was like, oh my God, he is so gracious.
Yeah.
He's so merciful.
And he is. And, and I didn't think about that at all when my husband was sick. I didn't think about it. That didn't come up until I was actually writing. and so that was just the Lord. And, and people say the craziest things to you. And I think it's important to know what you know, to know what you know, and to know where you're grounded. Because people will ask you, they will say things like, well, maybe you just didn't have enough faith, or maybe you didn't pray enough, or maybe, people say things. People say things, so you kind of have to be grounded in your own faith and know what God has, who God is in your life and what He stands for you. So that was the beginning of it. Wow. And then realizing that grief, it's the part of life. I don't know anyone that has not lost a loved one.
Right.
Anyone. If you haven't, you're very fortunate. If you haven't, you're very
fortunate.
You're going to say live long enough eventually. But there's no right or wrong way to grieve a loss. There's no, it should take this long, or it should be like this. Or there's just not. It's as different as you are as a person. How you handle your losses is individual. And I think people needed to know that that's okay. That it's okay to say, I don't feel like getting up today.
Right.
It's okay to say, I don't want to talk to anybody today. And maybe today I don't want to eat. Now, I can't do that 20 days in a row.
Right.
But it's okay to have a day that I wake up and, I don't know, maybe I hear a song and it puts me back. Mm-hmm. And I have to kind of have a moment. Yeah. That's okay. I feel like people need to understand that. And grief is just one of those things. I could be, my husband was, of course, the most recent. Well, no, I've lost a brother-in-law since my husband's death as well. Mm. But my husband's death, other than my mother's death was very challenging for me. And that was one where the grief was long, and it was stick my head under the cover, and I don't want to talk to nobody. Right. Don't want the phone to ring. Right. Every experience is different. But what I realized is that you have to let it happen. You have to grieve. You have to cry. You have to, there are all those stages I talk about. Yes. You're going to be mad sometimes. You're going to be in denial. You're going to wake up some days and think, oh God, let me wake up and this isn't what's going on. Right. That he's still here, he's still alive, and that was just a bad dream. Mm. Those are the things. Sometimes we just want to bargain with God. God, if you take this away, what you want? What do you want from me? Yeah. And that's just grief. Grief is like that. And then, of course, the angry part. You be mad at yourself. You be mad at God. You mad at anybody around you.
Mad at the person.
Those are all normal things. Yeah. Normal things. And then you have the people that, you might see somebody that's grieving and they're just getting on with the business of things. They have children. They have things to do. They got da-da-da. And so they're kind of delaying it. It's there, but they're not going to deal with it yet. They'll deal with it at some other, what they say, more convenient time. There are people that kind of squash it down, and then you look and they've fallen down on the road somewhere. Right. It's all the same. It's all grief. It's all... different ways that people handle their grief. And I think if we can at least understand that it's normal, that it's normal for us to get hit and to stop in our tracks and not know what to do, that's just a part of it. So in the book, when I started to write, I started to think about, okay, so now what are we doing here? We go through the grief, and I didn't know like what my husband wanted me to do about some things. Right. I kind of knew what he felt about, memorial service, those kinds of things. I knew what his wishes were. I knew what his wishes were regarding, possessions. My husband was not a person that had a lot of care about possessions, Right. So I kind of knew what his thoughts were about that. he would always tell me, he'll say, here there are resources there. He'd tell me, don't shop. He would say, don't shop, do X, Y, Z. So he gave me the list of things that he wanted me to do. In my own, as I've noted, I am by profession, I work in counseling, social work with families and people. So in my own right, I kind of also know you don't make major choices and major decisions, in the immediate. Give yourself some time to just kind of leave things as they are, right. Don't sell your house. You don't have to. Now, mind you, some people might have to,
Mm-hmm.
but if you don't have to make major shifts and changes, it's best to kind of wait.
Right.
Let the dust settle, let yourself, get yourself to a place of peace before you make those kinds of choices and decisions. And people will ask you to do stuff. They will ask you, So those are the things when I started to write, I said, widows and people who are dealing with losses need to know, take your time, give yourself space, allow the emotions to be there, get some counseling, listen. Thank God for therapy.
Yes.
Thank God for the grief group. And I did. I took advantage of all of those things, early on. And every now and then, if I feel kind of, if I feel like I'm sinking, I'll call again. Look,
right.
Can you fit me in? I don't know what's going on, but I think I need to talk. I think I need to have a conversation. So, yeah.
One of the things I wanted to talk to you about in the book, I told you when we spoke last week, I got some questions. Yes. You mentioned that people thought that they were helping you by excluding you.
Oh, yeah.
I know that my sister lost her son. So my brother lost his daughter to leukemia in 2014. She was 13 years old.
Okay. Wow.
And my sister lost her son to an accidental overdose in 2021, August 5th, 2021. That was hard.
Yes,
both of them were hard. We lost our father in December of 2008.
Okay.
And I tell you the truth, this book will speak to all facets of my family, right? But sometimes when I read that part in your book, we would say we probably shouldn't invite Lee because it might be too soon, because we don't want to wait. You don't want to
open the wound.
You don't want to trigger nothing. Yeah, you want to open. Yeah. That's the best way to put it. We don't want to open the wound.
Here's the thing. You're talking about you don't want to invite the person to a gathering. They've got triggers all around, everywhere. There are triggers in your house. There are triggers in the mall. There are triggers when you see people walking hand in hand. There are triggers when
but I wanted you to talk. I'm glad that you wrote that, because I think it's so important to talk about, because of the fact that it's what we as humans think that we're helping, and we're really hurting because your feelings were hurt.
The comfort is sometimes in being with other people who know you, who know, for your sister who knows she lost a child. Just being with you, being in the group, in the number, and if it's too much, she's going to stay home. If she doesn't feel like she's up for it, she'll probably make a decision to stay home. But to not know about or not be invited makes you feel like, okay, so now am I like, I'm not visible, I can't come because, it just hits a different way when you're excluded than it does when you get to make a choice about where you want to go or whether you want to go or stay. I find, when I go, what I find, now I talk in this book about a party that I wasn't invited to. And everybody cries at that point. And it wasn't, I didn't write about it for people to cry or to feel bad. I wrote about it for you for people to understand
Exactly.
that you can invite people.
And let them
I
decide.
think for me, it's more meaningful because that same group of people, we were all together for a Christmas party. And it's hard because my husband was the first person in our circle of people to pass. He was the first spouse. So all of us who got married back in the 80s and the early 90s, the couples that were in church together that got married, my husband is the first one to die. So all of the gatherings that we go to, we would have, and there's a group of us, there was maybe 12, 14 of us, 7 couples, that we get together a couple times a year.
Wow.
We get together for Christmas. We get together in the summer. There's usually a cookout. And I want to think it was somebody's anniversary in that group. I don't even remember now what it was, but it was something.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing in this world of Facebook, I saw pictures. And in my mind, it was just what I wrote about.
Yeah, it was an anniversary.
Am I not? Am I not okay to come to these things anymore? So fast forward to I don't think it was that year, but it might have been the next year. Fast forward to the next Christmas gathering, and I went, and it was just me. I don't think my daughter went with me. I think it was just me. We had our usual Christmas, our usual thing. And the thing that was a blessing to me was the next Christmas, because the year prior, my husband and I were there together. So the year prior, we were there together. They knew that, everybody knew that my husband was dealing with what he was dealing with, and we'd had prayer. So they prayed for him at that dinner, and we'd had a good time. So when the following year, when I went to the dinner, went to the Christmas, it was a Christmas party, went to the holiday party. One of the first things that they did as we opened up our evening was prayer. And they opened it up with prayer and remembered my husband in the prayer. Dear Lord, last year, Daryl was here with us. We're missing him today. We just thank you for his life. That acknowledgement and that prayer for me changed the whole evening.
Right.
I was able to, we were able to have the prayer, we had the memory, and then I was able to have a good time.
Yeah.
And I was happy to be there. So I think you have to be you're mindful, but I don't think you should exclude people. I think you need to let them decide.
Let them make
whether
the decision.
They can come or not.
That's why I think the book is good for someone who lost somebody, but also the family member of the person. Because you were speaking to all of us. That story struck for me because I would be the one to say, I think it's too soon to invite her. We got to consider her feelings. You don't want to be hanging out with a bunch of married couples and you just lost your husband. So, and it would be because that's how I would feel. If I just lost my husband, don't go inviting me to stuff.
Yeah, sometimes you would go and somebody else's husband's not there because they had to work tonight, or people aren't going to just stay home because their husband's not there.
Yeah.
So in that respect, you're just there, and our relationships are, and it's really kind of cool now. It's 3 years later, but it's really kind of cool now to be there, and I can actually enjoy somebody saying, what Daryl would say about this. He would be, because my husband was very quiet, so he didn't say a whole lot, but he was the person that could crack the joke. You'd be laughing, and he'd be there with straight face, like, what's wrong with you? So, and there are people that know him. So they know him well, have served with him in church. So they kind of get me, and they kind of get him in that, in that respect. So it's kind of cool sometimes to be with people who know you and know you well and know both of you. And then I'll speak to the other side. There's a flip side to meeting new people, because I've done that as well you're a new person. The whole restoration, my church family, this writing of the book, that whole community is new people to me. So what's been interesting, so now there's a whole nother group of people in my life who only know me. They don't know me as a wife. They don't even really know me as a mother because they haven't been around to see me as a parent, raising children.
Yeah.
They know me as the parent of grown children, so it's kind of different, because even the expectations are different. How you kind of get to, I don't know if I would call it reinvent yourself, but you're kind of it's a different you,
right. It is.
You. Because here I am, I'm learning to live as a single person, live as a person who doesn't have to ask anybody else what they want for dinner or where do you want to go. I'm going kind of where I want to go.
Right.
I'm doing the things I want to do and learning how to kind of have a preference,
right.
and to just kind of go with the flow. So it's interesting. It's an interesting place in life to be. So I like having both. I like seeing friends and family that have known me forever, but I'm also enjoying meeting, new people.
I like that. Good
so
for you.
That's part of
it. That's awesome. Another question: What was the hardest part of writing the book?
Thinking about, did I really want to tell people how I was feeling and what I was thinking? Like how, and even as I look back at the book now, I think, I could have put a little more in this part, or I could have told a little more here, there. But when I was thinking about some of the weird things, the weird things that I was doing, like forgetting to pay people. Oh God.
Oh yes.
Let me tell you,
I can imagine that.
Notices. I was getting notices. We're about to turn your electric off. And I'm thinking, I paid that bill. What do you mean?
Yeah.
And come to find out, and then I go to the bank real indignant, looking to see, did the money come out? No, I hadn't paid it because the check was still in my bag somewhere in an envelope, ready to be mailed, waiting for a stamp or stamp. Sometimes the stamps would be on. It wasn't something that I worried about. I just didn't do it. I just didn't do it. My husband was one who paid bills online. I never trusted that. I didn't want to pay bills online.
Right.
I didn't want to do anything automatic. I just did it. I didn't trust it, didn't like it. Well, after probably about 6-8 months of paying late charges, getting notices, I have one friend, she says, look, just automate it. Just automate it, put it in there,
so much
and just
easier.
Let them take it out. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. But finally I did. I broke down and I said, okay, I'm just going to pay my bills automatically. Put the money in the bank and just let them take it out. Because I kept forgetting to pay people. It was the weirdest thing. Oh gosh. Thank you cards. I carried my thank you cards around with me.
Yeah.
My husband died in August. I found those thank yous probably the following year. And then I was mad because I was always wanting to do this personal thing. I want to write out something really nice. I want to tell them what I really appreciated about what they did and blah, blah, blah. And here I never mailed the cards. So there was one Christmas that they got the thank you card and they got a Christmas card.
Hey.
And in the Christmas card, the note said, listen, I know this is a little crazy, but I did appreciate what you did when you did it. And I just want you to have
Don't charge it to my heart. Yeah.
Crazy. So those are some of the things. There were just some weird things. Just that kind of stuff. Just forgetting, not sleeping. Oh God, not sleeping.
The part my favorite part of the book, my favorite part was when you said, and I told you before, you spoke to your pastor about not being able to sleep. and he told you to sleep on your husband's side of the bed. And now, because I was reading this book at night before bed, now I'm looking over at my husband like, oh, God, please don't ever leave me.
Don't be looking at your husband.
I did. Oh, my gosh. And then when you were saying how your husband was the fix-it guy, he knew how to, that's my George. He's that guy. That goes around fixing everything.
You don't even appreciate that stuff.
No,
you don't even
I do now.
You don't even know. And
Help
then you
me,
look
Jesus.
up 3 years later and you're thinking, things are breaking. Because things are broken down. Things need to be replaced. And who do I call? Who do I call that's not going to charge me double, triple?
Women do now.
Those things. And then, I told you. And then I found out with my computer. My husband was the IT guy. I had to buy Microsoft. I don't know that I've ever bought that before. And I've been using it for a long time.
Wow.
So I don't know what was going on there.
It wasn't your business.
Microsoft. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I've been paying for things because my husband took care of a lot of the stuff. He was the guy that when the computer went black, I could just take it to him and he would say something like, Paula, you need to delete some of these emails. You have 10,000 emails. That's why your computer's not working. Wow. Okay. That's why. And I'm always like, but there's something in there that I might need. I might need to search for that email,
Oh, so, my goodness.
Those
I
are the
love
things
it. I
that,
love it.
We laugh about now. My daughter says, don't you remember Dad would just take our computers and we would get the blue screen of death and he would fix it. He would take it apart and give it back and it would be working. Yeah, not. When I was writing the book, as a matter of fact, when I was writing the book, I had a computer die. My laptop died. I was halfway through the book and my computer died. I didn't have a backup. I had to start all over. Had to go buy a new computer. No. And I laugh now. It's like, okay. Wow,
I would never laugh about that.
But these are the things. These are the things that happen.
Wow.
But there was just a weirdness. I said, some days that, I would be up and want to do things and go places. And some days I didn't. I had one girlfriend that would just show up. And I'd look up and she'd be here. Like, why are you here? And she'd say, I could hear it in your voice. Like, well, what did you hear? Did you bring me a cheesesteak? What did you hear? That kind of thing. But
So what's the best way you can describe this book would be good? Because I know I could come up with several different ways, but it's your book. You wrote it. You can describe that it would be helpful to my sister. I know how, but I want to hear from you.
I think it's, I don't know, because what you're saying is true. I've had people that have bought the book, given it to others, and they write me back and they say, this book helped me to put a plan in place for my child.
Right.
Because they had a special needs child and they didn't have a will or they didn't have any kind of a guardian in place. And it made them think about, well, what if something happened to me? What would happen to my child? There are people that have written me back about that. So,
That's
and that
good.
wasn't really my intention, Excuse me, I wasn't really writing it with that in mind, but when my husband died, I think about now, even though my children are grown, I think about, well, what happens if I die? What happens? Because I got a lot of stuff. And what I did realize with my husband's passing, we were married, so I'm his spouse. So there were many things I didn't have to do a whole lot to transfer this or that or the other, because we were married. We were pretty much joint. We owned pretty much everything jointly.
Right.
But the challenge that I did have was my husband had a vehicle. He had a car. And I wanted to change. We owned the cars that even my adult children, we owned the cars. And I think one of the cars was in his name. And I wanted to change that to put it in my son's name because the registration is in my husband's name. And that was a whole process. It was a whole unnecessarily so crazy process, to the point
they should know better.
The attorney said, just leave it there. Let it stay in your husband's name. When that car is paid for, then you'll just change it over.
Right.
Because the DMV would not change the name. It's like, well, can you put my name first? I couldn't even.
Stop being dumb. Stop.
Just weirdness.
Yeah.
There's some things that, the laws that are in place are not always user friendly, I'll say. So it's important to put your things in order. If you own something, if you have property, if you have vehicles, you need to know if something were to happen to you, what happens to those things.
Right.
And can you make it easier for your loved ones to possess those things rather than the state of wherever you live, the state of New Jersey, the state of Pennsylvania, the state,
Right. So, and all these things are in the book. All these things are in the book. It's beautiful.
Making sure your affairs are in order, that your children, your grandchildren, your whoever it is, if it's a sister or a brother that's handling your affairs, they're going to appreciate it if you put your things in order.
Right.
Because they're the ones that are going to have to run around
looking for stuff. Right.
If it's not in order, they're going to have to go to the court. They're going to have to go to the surrogate. They're going to have to put up some money to say that they're responsible to take care of your things. Whereas you can dictate those things now.
Right.
While you're alive and well, you can decide. And then nobody has to fight over it. Nobody has to run around figuring out, well, who can afford to give them $1,000 as surety against that I'm going to do something foul or I'm not going to do, there's just so many things. So you can't just say, oh, well, I'm not a rich person, so I don't need a will. No, you need to have these things in place. And it's not even just if you die, if you're sick. If something happens to you and you can't get to the bank to write the check to pay your mortgage or to pay your insurance or to pay your bill, do you have it lined up so that someone is your power of attorney for those things, or someone has access to your information?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you don't, guess what? They can't, and you're in the hospital, they can't go take care of nothing. They can't even buy you groceries.
Right.
That's just
listen. It's on lockdown.
These are minor. These are little things, but important. So those were some of the things that came up. When I was writing the book, it was just there was just so much.
Yes, I like the scripture verses that you added.
Yeah.
It was before. It was either before each chapter or after each chapter.
Yep, before each chapter, I did a scripture verse. I wanted it. Well, it kind of is at the. You could look at it one of two ways. There was one at the beginning. I put usually a couple of verses at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted the break of the chapter to be a scripture. I wanted there to be scripture for you to think about, and I think I did try to relate it to what I was talking about.
You did.
To think about what you're doing, think about where we are, and, so, yeah.
It was beautiful. It was beautifully done.
Yeah.
You made it so simple, and it's about understanding that death is a part of life. It's understanding that God wants us to move on after his will has been done. He wants us to move on. Mind you, you're talking to a woman now whose husband is alive downstairs, and her children are where they belong right now. So it's easy for me to say this, but reading this book helped me see things so different when it comes to death. Now, please, God, don't test me on that and take one of my nothings. I'm just saying, you made it wow, she's so right. And also thinking about death. Some of us don't not forget about talking about it. We don't even want to think about it. But it is a part of life.
Well, that's why I think when I wrote the book, I was wanting it to be instructional. I want people to have the conversation now. So I'm healthy. I don't have nothing going on. God, thank God, the grace of God, I'm going to live a long time. But it's easy for me to talk about it now that I don't have to make any decisions. I don't have to make any choices. I don't have to. But I can tell my folks what I want now. So that if there's a time when I can't tell them what I want, they're not looking at each other and saying, "Oh, I wonder what she will want us to do. I wonder how she want us to handle this." Even for myself, because I think I'm probably older than you, and I've seen some of my older relatives who, I'm 64. I have 80-year-old relatives. Huh?
I'm 50.
Okay, so I'm older than you. And I have folks who are like 20 years older than me that say things like, "Well, I don't want to talk about that. It's not time yet."
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, you're 80. It's not time for you to tell somebody where the key is.
You want borrowed time. Yeah.
So I figure at 60, it's easier now for me to talk about it because I'm thinking I ain't going to need to talk.
Right.
I'm not going to need to deal with that. For at least another 20 or more years. And in another 20 or more years, hopefully, you'll be able to show me what I said when I was thinking differently.
Yes.
That, around this time, I need to be doing X, Y, Z. I laugh because my daughter will say, "Do you really think you're going to be driving to the grocery store at night?" I said, "Yep."
Yeah.
Yep.
And why not?
Yep.
And why not? That's right.
But then the caveat is I say, but if I start, having accidents or I start not doing things right, y'all need to figure out how you want to say, "Hey, Mom.
No more driving for you, sis.
We not going to be driving."
That's right.
When I decide that I want to at 90 go to the market at midnight, y'all going to have to say, "Mom.
Yeah.
Maybe not." And you're going to remind me of this conversation I had with you.
That's right.
If I stop making wise decisions, I need y'all to act in my best interest. Those are the things. And
I love that.
So that's why you talk about it over dinner, because over dinner it's like conversation.
And then you can even laugh about it. Then you can laugh about it.
You can laugh about it, like conversation. I can remember, and I don't know if I included this in the book. I know I thought about it. I don't know if I did, but I can remember my grandparents, my great grandmother, and my great aunt, and they were, they were.
Oh yeah, it's in there. I read it. It's in there. Yeah.
Somebody's funeral.
Not enough flowers.
They would come home and they would talk about it. They would talk about the flowers. They would talk about what they were wearing, what their children or grandchildren dressed them in for their burial. And my mother would say, my grandmother would say, "Don't dress me in one of those nightgown looking things. I have plenty of clothes. Put on something that I bought, new, fresh, something pretty." Something,
Oh,
and they would, like, when they would go out and buy something, they said, "Okay, so now this would be one of the dresses that you could bury me in, or this would be one of the outfits
to the side, yes,
and, put my glasses on." They would go through this whole thing. Put my glasses on, make sure I have some jewelry on, and then my mother, her thing was, "And don't put my good jewelry in the casket with me. Go buy some costume jewelry, and you keep the good." They would tell you all these things, but
oh wow,
it
makes sense.
Those are things I wouldn't have thought about.
Get it together,
really thought about. I would have gone and I would have done whatever the mortician, because they do. They have the lovely the shrouds. They're called the shroud, but they look like a nightgown. They didn't want those, but those would be the conversations. So they'd sit at dinner and they'd talk about it. They'd talk about this, they would talk about that. I said, so that's why this whole dinner conversation, it makes sense.
It does.
Why not? You can disagree while I'm here, and I can tell you what I agree, what I like.
When I read the book, I said my sisters and I are having a gathering for my oldest sister's birthday, and I'm going to bring it up.
Yeah, you should.
I'm going to bring it up. I have a very big family, and we're going to talk about it because we need to talk about it while everybody's here. But we talk about the death talk at dinner, it's important for somebody like me. I have 5 sisters.
Oh, yeah.
I have one brother. I have 4 children. I have a mother. if God forbid something was to happen to me, they need to know that my husband didn't just come up with these decisions on his own.
Right.
Because they'll be mad at him for a long time for some of the things that I told him that I wanted.
Set up.
Right.
Stuff that she set up and
right.
said, okay.
This is what my wife wanted, and this is what we're going to do. I just really wanted to have this conversation with you because I feel like this book is going to help a lot of different people that's going through different kinds of grief, because there are different kinds of grief. But the title of it, transitioning from mourning to joy. And sometimes, when that sting first happens, you don't see joy. Like, you don't see any joy here. There's no joy. But I love the sovereignty part.
Joy is not really this giddy, happy all the time.
No.
It really is.
Right.
The joy that I'm talking about is really rooted and grounded in that the joy of the Lord is my strength.
Right.
That's where that strength comes from. That's where the joy is. That's where I'm alive yet another day. Thank you, God.
Right.
And because I'm alive, I do in my deepest part of my heart believe we are here for purpose. We are here because God has work for us to do. And so when I wake up, there's another day for me to do the work that He has for me to do.
Morning by morning.
That's the joy. That's where the joy is. It's not a joy in, now I get to live without my spouse. It's not a joy, now I'm going to live without my child. But the joy is that God has purpose in my life. I feel like they did their part. They lived their life. They ran their race, and God said, well done. And that's true for my mother, my father, my husband. What is the word? Yesterday, I heard a word and it really resonated with me because it's a word that I always say. People are like, why me? And I always come back with why not?
Yeah.
Because I do the scripture that it rains on the just and the unjust. That's true.
And to everything there is a time and a season.
This is right. These things are going to come.
Yeah.
And the question is, how am I going to respond?
Yeah.
So how am I going to honor the life of my husband? Honor his diligence, his commitment, how he cared for us as a family. How do we honor that but still live?
Yeah.
Okay, how do we honor that but still live? Still continue to live, still continue to do and to be well and to live our best lives. That's one day at a time. When we have children, I have a woman that I work with who lost her son, I want to say a few years ago now, and only child.
Oh,
Jesus. And, I can't even wrap my mind around it.
No.
It's sort of what you say when you're looking at your husband next to you and you're like, oh God, no.
Yeah.
I don't even want to think about that. And her son, I believe, was probably about 30. So my children are in that age, and I believe, it very sudden, very tragic. And I look at her, and I know for a period of time, she just wasn't, just nothing. But now I see that there's a scholarship. Now I see that there's an annual event that she does. Now I see that and so she has found ways to remember him and continue her life.
Right.
She's since gotten married. We've talked a little bit about, I think there was a grandbaby that was born. And she says, I used to think I would never have a grandchild. She says, so here's God showing me that there's still life. And I love this grandbaby.
Oh,
and we transition. We find our way. The thing I say is, I don't know what people do who don't have Jesus. I don't know what people do who don't have God, because the greatest part of why I do what I do and can do it is because my foundation is in the Lord.
Thank God.
That's where my faith is. That's where my trust is. That's where my I know I'm gonna be okay is all
of it. All of it. And that's so important. I love that you said that. Because as we kind of wrap it up, I was going to go exactly where you just went. Understanding, knowing, and realizing that it's all the sovereignty of God.
It is. It really is.
And we have to know what to do when He says no.
Yes, and he can say no.
He can say no. He is God.
It is. We pray, and yes, we know God can.
Yep.
We know sometimes He does. We just know that this time He said no.
He said no.
And it does not change that He's God. It does not change that He could have. It just means He said no,
Period. And that part. Yeah.
It's, and it goes back to, yesterday's message was, I guess, prepared me for this conversation, because it really confirmed for me all of my feelings about the sovereignty of God. And one thing that she said was that God said no to Jesus.
Yeah.
When He wanted the cup to pass. So who am I to think that He's not ever going to say no to me?
Listen. So I love that.
When you write a book, you write this book, you think you wrote the book, you publish it, and you did your thing that you said you were going to do.
Yeah.
And you just don't even anticipate that you're going to be talking about this book over and over and over again. You don't anticipate that people are going to be asking you questions. You're like, I wrote that book. It's going to be on the shelf somewhere. And I guess in my heart of hearts, my biggest thing was, but God, do I really want to be talking about death and dying and
that would be
what people should be doing? Because then, I wrote a workbook. I haven't published it yet, but the workbook has all the forms, all the things, all the places where, and it's like, God, really, is this really where it's going? Because I don't know. This is what I wanted to really be talking about.
Yes.
But I do really have, I don't necessarily know it's a unique perspective, but I really do have an understanding that God is sovereign.
Yes.
And that life and death are part of life. And it's not a cold, like non-caring, non-feeling thing. But I started to write, I get these speaking engagements, and I started the one, and it was like, okay, so we all have appointments. We have 2 appointments in life. We have the day that we're born, and we have the day that we're going to die. Yep. And both of those are days we don't know about. We don't know when it's going to happen. We don't know how. We can't predict it. We don't know the time. And that's just real. That's just real.
It is. And once one happens, there's no stopping the other.
Right. As part of the human experience is that you got to be born, and one day you're going to die.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh my God, is this really what I'm talking about?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And it is. And it is. It is. It is. But
I want to just thank you so much. I want to thank you for your opening up your heart for the world to understand where you were in your time of grief. It's really hard putting your feelings down on paper and putting your business all out there for people.
I want to tell
but you did, and you did it because you realized that this is not about you. It's about what you can do to help somebody else. And you did that, and you did it well. And I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
So before we close, I want you to take a few minutes to tell me 2 things. 1, encourage someone out there with some final words that just lost someone or is about to lose someone. They know the time is coming. So I want you to encourage someone, and then tell us what you have coming up.
If you are right now dealing with a loss, or maybe looking at a loved one and knowing that maybe they're not going to be here very much longer, I want you to just know that God is with you. and He's sovereign, and He sees you. Give yourself space and grace to deal with all the feelings. Love the person that you love. The reason that the grief is hard, the reason that the loss is hard, is because you love the person. So it is the grief is an outgrowth of your love for your person.
Right.
So allow space and grace for that and feel it, but take care of yourself in the process. Allow the people around you that are trying to help, allow them in, let them come by. Eat the food they fix for you.
Yeah. That's good.
Let them comfort. Let them be a comfort.
That's right.
Where they can. And just know that it won't be this way forever. It will get better. We'll get better. As far as what I have coming up, locally I'm going to be speaking at a healing conference in September. And then, of course, in September, I'm going to the Roadmap to Destiny as a breakout speaker. I have my book club that's going to be starting at the end of the month. So if you have my book, you can read through my book with me. I think it's going to be on Wednesday nights. We're going to be reading through starting at the end of this month, probably after the 30th. So it might be early September.
Nice.
And anything else that I'm not remembering right now, you can find on my website, www.livingonpurpose.com.
And what is your Facebook?
My Facebook is Coach Paula Anderson, and I have a group page, Victoriously Living After Loss. That's where the book club is going to be. So it'll be on that page.
I love that name, Victorious Living After Loss. I'm going to go ahead and sign up and like the page, and I hope to join some of your classes. How will you be doing it? Is it Zoom?
It's going to be Zoom. It's going to be in a Zoom.
Oh, that's going to be so awesome.
Yeah.
Listen, everybody, you have met the wonderful Miss Paula Anderson, the author of Walk Into Your New, Transitioning from Mourning to Joy. You need to pick up this book. Did you tell us how we can get the book?
Amazon. It is on Amazon, but you can also get it on my website, www.livingonpurpose.com.
I love it. I love you. I thank you. I thank you. Thank you. Stay wonderful. Stay great. Stay blessed.
Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Join me next time right here on the CharlieB Podcast. CharlieB out. Thank you, Miss Paula.
I like the CharlieB out.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the show. You can also like my page on Facebook at the CharlieB Podcast. Now, before you get out of the car and go to whatever is next, take a deep breath and remember, this is what you were created for. God gave you a different kind of strength, and whatever it is, you've got this. So again, thanks for tuning in. Really, you didn't have to, but I'm so glad that you did. Join me next time right here on the CharlieB Podcast.